welcome to the Post-Human Podcast.
Welcome to the Post-Human Podcast, folks. Today's guest from the Terror Tracks podcast and also an author, Jack Pierce. How's it going, my friend?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
I'm very good. The first question I'm going to ask is this. Let me just take my hat off. I'm absolutely boiling. The first question is, has anyone ever told you that your name sounds like it's out of a Tom Clancy novel?
No, I've never heard that actually before.
Okay. Well, it is. The minute I seen it, I was like, damn, that's a cool name. It's like a spy kind of name, Jack Pierce. You know,
I think you're thinking more of what's his name? Jack Ryan, I think, is the Tom Clancy one. I think it's Jack Ryan. I never really read the Clancy books, but I think it is Jack Ryan.
Yeah, no, there is a Jack Ryan.
Yeah, I think so.
Right. So I had to get that question out of the way, just because it's. I've been thinking about it for days, and I'm like, I've got to ask that. It's got to be done. So, your own podcast. What made you start it?
Well, I mean, I wrote 11 books total. 10 are available for sale. One was discontinued because it was just a box set that was meant to be a limited time anyway. But, so I have 10 that are published right now. And I figured, after 10 books that I really was kind of tired of, doing the publishing thing. So just, some business things went on in the background and some stuff was shifted around, and I decided that I'd rather do a podcast for at least a little while anyway to kind of recharge the batteries, because when you put out 10 books in 3 years, it's kind of draining. And especially when 4 are novel length. So
what's the word count on them? Like 45,000, something like that?
No, most of them around 70 to 75,000.
Woo! Good luck with that. Bastard, yeah. That's a lot of writing in 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, 4 of them were that. I think like the first one was 72. The one after that was 74 or something like that. Then it was like 68. And then another one was like 250 pages. So I guess around the 45, like you were saying. So that's sort of the breakdown of the 4 novel length ones. So that's just from memory. I may be wrong by a few thousand, but it's close enough.
70 is still pretty good going. That's a fairly chunky book.
Oh yeah.
Considering again, I write a little bit, but I'm pretty slack.
Yeah.
It's the best way to put it. But I think I'm on like 15,000 words ish. Might even be 5,000. I might be way over judging that. No, it is really a book. No, it's 15,000. But it's even then I'm at like a dead end with that. It's a lot of work. So 70,000 plus another 70, and you're talking like 210,000 before you've even got into your small books. It's a hell of a lot. It's a hell of a lot of words.
Yeah, I mean, it is a lot of writing, and there are some books out there that you'll just like what I call, you get touched by the Holy Ghost and you write like 50 pages in a day.
Yeah.
And then there are other books where it's like you just, you sit on the toilet and strain for hours, and you might get 5 pages that day, and that's all you get. And usually those books are the ones that die or become short stories where you just sort of tie it off and say, it's done. Just be done with it. It went far enough.
Yeah. Well, it's such a strange process. So I was just making sure it was recording the audio then. Son of a bitch thing. But I've had a few audio problems myself lately, and luckily Zoom's recording it in the background. It's time for another email to my video capturing company. Fucking sons of bitches. I made sure it was capturing at the start, but luckily Zoom's got it. Yeah.
You're not using OBS?
I've tried using OBS. But linking that virtual camera is a bit tricky. I've not managed to do it yet.
Mm-hmm.
I did do one through OBS, but it made me sound so tinny. It was fucking horrible. I don't even know why it made me sound that way.
I don't know. I use Streamlabs OBS, and it does pretty good for me. That's what I used to record. Is I record with OBS because it has like the noise suppression stuff and like the noise gate and everything built in, where it takes a lot of the issues out of editing, and I don't really hear a difference between like Audacity and OBS. But plus, if you use Audacity, you'll end up like to use it to do the noise reduction, it'll like strip out the audio where it sounds really hollow and tinny and nasty and all that. So I use OBS to record the audio, but then I just convert the video to an MP3 and on. But that's how I do the podcast. I feel like OBS gives me cleaner, more full audio because there's no stripping, after the fact, like the destructive editing is I think what they call it with Audacity at least.
Well, I try not to do any editing. That's my one goal of my show, is to just not edit. If I can, I mean, people complain about and shit like that and coughing and whatever, but I like to try and make shows as realistic as possible because that's what we are as humans. We're real people,
I mean, if that's what the audience likes and you're happy with it, the audience is happy with it, just go with it, man. I mean,
I mean, it's only sort of people on Facebook that are trying to promote services that are complaining, it's like, hey, you've got too many ums in there, so I can remove them all for you. I don't think you can, because then you're having to remove like so much of a shit, it's
it's just, I mean, you can overproduce something, I think that's what happened with my first book, because it kind of was overproduced, and that was my fault because it was the first full-length novel I ever written, so I really edited it a whole lot. I mean, it came out great, of course, but I felt like books after that needed a lot less work. I think it was because when you first do a novel or something like that, you're going through all the research and trying to figure out what to do and what not to do, and all of that stuff. And that's kind of the point of Terror Tracks, well, at least season 1 anyway, where I basically kind of cut through all that and say, all right, this is what I did, not what you need to do, but what I personally did, and if you think that that'll work for you, good. If you don't think so, that's fine too. But I'm trying to go through that sort of thing where I feel like, and I've said this, I don't know if I said it on any other podcast, but I have this problem with YouTubers in general when it comes to like the book YouTubers that, not that they're bad people, but they have this sort of format, like how YouTube works, like the top 10 this and all that stuff. So you have to kind of market your, create your video based around sort of like a popular theme, your top 10s, your, this thing, that thing, writing advice from this, whatever.
You're having to, that's the only problem, excuse me, is you're having to cater for everybody else.
Yeah.
Rather than publishing what you want to do. And it's almost like you have to play to the masses and go, well, if this is kind of what's going to get me, say, whatever amount of likes or views or purchases, you almost have to sometimes occasionally cater to those people just to draw them in a bit slowly,
Yeah, but the problem is with these YouTubers is that their advice is just flat out wrong. It's incorrect entirely, just from you could ask any author that's actually published something, they'll look at that advice and say, what? I mean, the one that I always thought, she's a really pretty girl, and I don't want to shit on her or say like her name in public or whatever. She's one of those, because you do have those, the hot girl that wrote one book and thinks she knows the entire industry for some reason, which happens a lot. But nothing against her as a person. I'm sure she's a sweet woman. But anyway, there's two of them in particular that I'm not going to name either one because I don't want the headache. But one of them in particular did this video that was called like the top 10 words you need to remove from your novel. And I listened to it and I was like, if I did that, my novel would sound like ass. And then I went and read her novel and it sounded like ass. I mean,
what was some of the words? Out of curiosity.
Like, I think it was like think, feel, realize, thought, just all this stuff is sort of like you're supposed to show these things. like there's
take empathy and humanity out of the book.
Yeah, it's like take all these different what you'll call padding words and stuff, or just is another one. You can't say just anymore. I'm like, just, I mean, who the fuck I've never, unless your reader is an English teacher and like the most anal one in the world, like I had back in high school. This is many years ago, probably 2005. So what has that been? 16 years since I've been in high school. Probably. Well, I got it in 2007, but anyway, I had this one teacher that was in 10th grade, and she was an author, a quote unquote author. I mean,
allegedly she was an author.
She put out a book. There's nothing wrong with the independent press, but she put one out through independent press like 30 years before she did the school thing, and she was really pretentious and poncy.
30 years.
If you said the word yeah instead of yes, or you did all this other sort of shit, she'd get really anal about it and give you the death glare and shit. And I'm just like, oh my god, woman. I mean, are you serious? Like most authors are not uptight assholes, and you will meet some that are uptight assholes. I'm not one of them because I came from a completely different background than being a literary person. I come from like the tech world, so I mean, we're just, if you turned off the fans in like, the room we're working in, you probably hear everyone screaming motherfucker, goddamn, all sorts of stuff. People get so mad. Like, I used to just another digression really quick. I used to work at Microsoft many years ago. I think it was like 5 years ago I worked there.
Okay.
And like, in every place that we went, it was we had these big bunkers sort of things. They're like concrete bunkers. And they had these fans that would go like full blast all day. And the fans are like, a wind tunnel fan. So it's really fucking loud. Like you cannot hear someone across the room.
Yep, got you.
And I always said, if you turned off those fans for like 5 minutes and didn't tell anybody, like nobody knew the fans were off, you would hear every word and every word that you could never say on television, probably every 5 seconds, everyone cussing and screaming and probably beating on the card, acting crazy. Just
what was it like working for Microsoft? Sorry.
Hot.
That's quite a bit, that's what the biggest tech company in the world, essentially,
It was the best job on earth for like the first year and a half.
Okay.
And then corporate decided to get their nose in and fucked everything up. And then everybody got laid off because they fucked it up and didn't want to take blame for that.
Okay.
That's the TLDR of 2 years of being there, but it was wonderful. I was the project manager of Xbox Live, and that was great for about a year and a half.
Shit.
And, not of like the entire country, but that one particular site, I wasn't
like a regional.
I was like, for that particular site, I was like the, project manager of that one department. And that was pretty good for a while, He
was like the regional manager of Dunder Mifflin, essentially.
Yeah. But the way I felt, the thing was like, after I got out of that, I mean, I dealt with the national manager that was really, like one of the big head honchos, I don't know how far below Michael Daly was, but he was pretty damn high up the totem pole, and he was the biggest dick on the planet. My God. Me and him almost got into a fist fight once, I think. And he was a military guy, so he would have beat my ass.
Kicked your fucking ass. That would have been hilarious. Well,
I think he had 2 or 3 inches on me. He was bald. He was about, way more in shape than me, but we got in each other's face one time, and, it just didn't work out well. I had long hair and he was bald, and we just didn't like each other.
No.
At some point, we finally just, finally came to a head, and that was it.
Yeah, he would have incorporated some old school Roman tactics into that and grabbed that.
Well, the thing was, I looked him up later. It turned out he wasn't even a combat guy. He was a fucking desk jockey. So maybe he doesn't know how to fight. I don't know.
Well, I think they all have to get trained, don't they? Because
the thing was, he was the one that backed down. So that was kind of funny.
Ooh. That's super funny. The fact that he backed down and then he turns out maybe he didn't.
Maybe he just didn't want. Maybe he just didn't want to get arrested. I guess I don't know.
Yeah, well, I
think it was better just to throw me out than anything.
You get that misdemeanor, and even that's affecting your job career apparently.
Well, the thing is, I mean, after I left that, I went and opened my own tech company anyway. So fuck them.
Do you still? Are you still the CEO of that tech company?
Yeah, I'm sitting right here in the office that I work in every day.
So what's the name of that company?
I'm not gonna bring that out because I know how people are.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I come from kind of a hostile side of the internet, or used to be in that hostile side of the internet where they, people not like a illegal side or anything. But
it's not 8chan, is it?
yeah. A lot of people are like 8chan, Kiwi Farms, those type of people. I'm sure you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That sort of seedy group is, people that orbit those sites and 4chan poll and all that.
Dark web lurkers.
Yeah, people like that. But I've had feuds with some of the people, back then, like one that, I mean, I know that we're way off track on the books, but maybe people will just enjoy this because I'm not a snooty, up my own ass author talking about, posh wines and shit and sitting in front of a campfire in a fucking turtleneck. Yeah, all right, let's go back real quick. I got a story about that, actually. I remember once when I was first writing the first book, which is called Under a Morning Star. And it was my best-selling book. And I joined this writing Discord. And oh my God, it made me hate being a writer for like 2 weeks. I almost quit. Like this is right after the book came out. I was like, you know what? I'm never writing another book again if this is what I'm going to have to put up with.
Was it just because of the critique, or
no?
comments?
It was because there was so many people in that group that were just pretentious fucking assholes. And none of them had published their own damn book yet. And I was like, why are you so posh and proper? And you just, you think, you read someone else's book and you just say the most inane bullshit. And just, I think my co-author, well, my editor, not co-author, my editor at the time set up like this sort of prank that he pulled on me where like he got me to go into like this, call where they were these two idiots, like the Beavis and Butthead of that Discord decided that they were gonna, they were gonna critique my work. And like, he got me in there and I sat there for an hour just listening to this bullshit. And I was just like, those people are the biggest idiots I've ever seen in my life. Why are these two, and all of a sudden I come out of there and he's like, did you enjoy your meeting? I said, how did you know about it? He goes, well, I set it up and those two are the Beavis and Butthead. He did it because he knew it would piss me off, and it did piss me off, all right. But
that's hilarious, man. That's fucking funny as fuck.
Yeah, sometimes you set me up with some stuff like that's happened before. People just mess with you like that, but it was harmless at the end of the day. And I just listened to two idiots for an hour, but I've done that for many years. Anyway.
I wished I now had my Lord of the Rings style pipe just to and a tweed jacket just for this conversation now.
Yeah, I just don't.
Hat back on.
I think most authors are good people that mean well, but there are some out there that are the turtleneck, New England, caviar types that are just, dickheads or whatever. And, you can tell that I'm a straight up redneck. I'm not some type of pretentious Ponzi. I didn't go to Harvard to write this shit. I don't write, literary fiction trying to be like, Moby Dick or something. I write big monsters that kill people, Well,
that's what I was going to ask. Obviously, what's your theme of most of your books?
I mean, it's like, I think the big thing that I kind of go for is I like Silent Hill a lot. Like I like the atmosphere of Silent Hill was a big influence on at least two of the books were really heavily based on Silent Hill, which were the Snow White Murders and Under a Morning Star. They both had a lot of Silent Hill in both of them. All of the books have sort of Silent Hill elements. So obviously Silent Hill is one of the things, like the first two games at least. And then the rest of it, I would mix it with like sort of like well, at least the Under Morning Star was my attempt at basically blending like Silent Hill and like Final Fantasy VII.
Ooh,
like you take
Final
something.
Fantasy VII is one of my favorite games of all time.
Yeah, but I wanted to not make it sort of like I didn't want to rip off either story, but I wanted the atmosphere and the scariness of Silent Hill mixed with the scope and the grandiose adventure of a Final Fantasy 7, 8, 9, whatever. Where it had the same structure, but it wasn't like, like the plot structure. It wasn't like, like swords and, monsters and gardens and, like all that sort of stuff. But I wanted that same sort of structure that, you start with the real, like, one town where it seems like this is going to be the entire story. Then it blows up into like this big worldwide thing.
Okay.
And that's, what I went for with at least the first book. And then the second book was a lot more grounded where it was Silent Hill plus Law and Order, because I was really obsessed with Law and Order at that point. I love those shows.
It's actually quite a good thing to to do, is to cross over just one general sort of thing.
Yeah.
With any, with anything, because it's going to work.
Yeah, I mean, if you just if you work on it a certain way, man, like there's some books out there that people love that other people don't like, and that's just how it's always going to be. And you can't really predict. The one thing that I tell everybody, because people will say, well, how do you sell more books? Or how do you make write this book to market? I'm like, you don't write to market. I mean, I don't care what anyone says. I've done that before, and that was a big screw up. When you write to market thinking I'm going to write what you're predicting what the audience wants, unless you're doing nonfiction. If you're trying to write to market with fiction, good luck, because you're just, you're already screaming in a stadium, and your generic Dracula fan fiction isn't going to sell 1 million copies. It's just not. I mean,
that's one of the things that I spoke about it with one of my previous guests. Fan fiction, it's a strange one. And he was explaining that it's like stepping into somebody else's shoes, taking over their characters and putting words in their mouth. And it's almost like you're treading on someone, really.
I don't have a problem with I don't have a problem with fan fiction itself, but my point is,
we was mostly talking about like Harry Potter fan fiction,
Yeah, my point is, it's not really fan fiction that's the problem. It's that you can't predict what the audience wants. Like, no matter what you do, like, I thought I never knew Under Morning Star would blow up. No idea, and that was my biggest one. And I always thought my second biggest one would be the Snow White murders, which it wasn't. That was maybe like near the bottom commercially, but it did go, it did hit number one, but it was still like, the lowest, one of the lowest, probably the lowest commercial novel was Dreamer, actually, but they were right head and head. But the one that I did that I thought sucked, I thought that this particular book was terrible and I hated it, was probably my most critically acclaimed best-selling book, right below Under a Morning Star, was the Suicide Diaries. I thought that book was just ass. I thought it was crap. I still think it's crap. It was like always in my bottom ranking. I was just like, this is just a throwaway. This thing ain't worth nothing. And people read it and they loved it. And I had even one person say, this guy is the second coming of Stephen King.
Steve, that's what I was going to say. I was like,
are you serious? That this out of everything else, this is the one that you think, all right, well, you can't predict the audience because the audience isn't you,
Well, he essentially has a bunch of throwaway novels, which he considers rubbish, but some of them are amazing.
Yeah, I think there are plenty of authors that have written, characters of books that they hated and they blew up, and that's what kind of happened to the Suicide Diaries. I don't think it's a terrible book, but it's, compared to my other stuff, I think that I have a lot better writing than that. I have a lot better stories than that particular one, but that was tickled people's fancy, and that was fine. I'm not gonna say don't buy it, but I would say you should probably maybe buy Under a Morning Star, Dreamer, Snow White Murder, something else like one of the novels, something big. I actually finished listening to my book Condemned, because all of them are becoming audiobooks now.
Have you got someone to narrate them, or have you done it yourself?
Yeah, I do got someone else to narrate them because I'm terrible at reading out loud. And my ADD is so bad that I can't do scripts. It just doesn't work. I've never been, I would just sound so unnatural if I read it, out loud. Okay. And I would end up replacing words and sentences and stuff, just improvising halfway through, and just my brain doesn't do that well. But I got other people that narrated, like different readers for every book, because I try to get narrators that sound like the main character, because it's all in first person. So I try to get someone that sounds just like, it's not, I'll get like 20, 30 auditions in like the first 24 hours of any time a book goes live. That's a lot of people, and there's nothing wrong with any of them, because all of them sound great, but it's just I have to listen to it, and I hear someone, and they read these lines, and so sometimes you'll just hear that that click, like you'll say, all right, that's it, you have that's it moment, and that's what these people are usually picked by, is the that's it moment. And I think I got a guy that was actually Irish to do Dreamer, because I thought that even though the guy was American, I thought he was kind of had like an Irish sort of thing to his voice a little bit. I don't write phonetically because I think that's really hard to read.
Yes, tricky.
I've always, it's fine if you want to write phonetically, but I think like Dolores Claiborne was kind of ruined by that particular writing style. I'm sure it's a wonderful book, but the thing was, when you read it, like I'm not from New England, so I see this stuff written in someone from Boston's accent or something, and I can't understand any of it. So
I think Stephen King's done a couple of books like that, where
that's fine. I
tosses some phonetics in there occasionally.
Yeah, like the whole book though was phonetic, and I was just like, this is like Japanese to me. I'm book. Like, the whole book was phonetic. I was just like, I respect Stephen King. He will always be the top horror author, probably. He's not my favorite, but he's always going to be like the king of horror is Stephen King. And
who's your favorite author?
I would probably say Michael Crichton was my favorite author.
Okay.
Because Jurassic Park was like the best book ever to me.
I've never read the book.
It is it is incredibly well written, and it took a lot, like him or Thomas Harris are way up there too. He did the,
Thomas Harris,
and all that.
Those books are amazing.
That's where I learned how to write dialogue, was actually from the Hannibal Lecter scene where Will Graham and Hannibal Lecter are talking in a cell, because I wanted to see, because it's literally just a scene of two guys going back and forth, and I wanted to see how you would write that, and it would basically boil down to almost like a ping pong match. It's like, such and such Graham said, such and such Lecter said this, back and forth without the tags of saying who said what, because you can kind of get this rhythm where who's saying what to each other without having to say said over and over.
It's sometimes tricky because I've known a few authors to do that. But then you really do kind of lose, unless you're paying attention to the way he's making the people talk, in terms of, like you say, phonetically. If they was both talking, one was talking phonetically and the other one wasn't, you'd be able to distinguish. But I've read a couple of books where, unless you've really paid attention to the way a writer makes the person talk, you just lose track. It's so tricky to write like that and have a bounce back and forth without going, which one said what?
Yeah, but I don't really think the reason I don't like those writing channels where they do like, the top 10 words, get rid of your novel and all that stuff, or how to do that, how to write this sort of thing. I don't like those sort of tutorials, because I feel like I'm not trying to be super negative on the show, but I'm just putting it out there. I'm trying to, yeah, it is what it is. But I just feel like if you listen to someone else tell you how you have to write your book, then your book is going to sound like their book, and their book might suck, which a lot of them do. When you look at these different, there's one actually, and she seems really sweet, and I don't want to, be too mean about it, but I try to be nice. I try to. It doesn't work out very well a lot of the time, but I try. She's this girl that just, she does all these writing videos, and I looked up her, thing to see like what books she's written, and she has like 10 books that she's written, none of them published.
Wow.
So I'm like, how can I take your advice if you have nothing to...
If no one's critiqued your book,
if no one's critiqued your book, how to... Yeah, exactly. I need something to, like if Stephen King was telling you how to, write a book. Yeah, I mean, Stephen King has over 60 novels out now. I mean, he has...
Well, I don't even know. There's so many.
More than that. He has books out there to prove that he's done this. He's had success, and this is his method. But if someone has not had something out there, it's hard to compare their work to what they're telling you.
Yeah.
It's hard to see, like, if someone says take out these 10 words, it's hard to see how that would sound if they don't have anything for you to read where they did that.
Well, even then, 10 books. It's all well and good going, well, I've wrote 10 books, but that doesn't mean shit if no one's read them.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, sales are hard to come by. They really are. They are just a nightmare to get any sales on any of your books. I mean, it is not like video games. I'm sure, I'm sure they're a lot easier, but I'm sure that there's plenty of games out there that someone spent 10 years on that'll never see the light of day on the Steam front page or something. Like plenty of stuff buried in there that you'll never see. But I think books are even worse because everyone's written a book, and books don't really cost that much to produce when you think about it compared to a game or movie or anything else. You could write a book right now for free in Google Docs and throw it out there for for free. Edit it yourself. You don't have to basically just drop some crappy cover in MS Paint, and that's it. You could do that and it wouldn't cost you nothing but time. But like with movies and video games and stuff, I mean, they cost a lot of money to produce, so there's less of them, is what I'm saying. There's a lot less movies and a lot less video games than there are books, because books are such a cheap medium to create, in different sizes and everything, and genres and all that stuff. But I was looking for trying to sort of shop it around, trying to get like a Condemned movie made, because that's a third bestseller, and that's what I did on the show. Every week I'll put out a new chapter of Condemned where you would be able to hear the audiobook version. And it was sort of dramatized out, like, make, add reverb to the guy's voice, and, make it sound like they're actually in that room, and cut out certain bits and, edit the pacing and everything to make it sound like it was a, professionally done audio drama. And it came out really well. And I was looking to try to make that into a movie at some point, because I think that wouldn't cost that much to make a movie of 4 people standing in a, a basement.
Yeah. It's essentially Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah, sort of like that, like Reservoir Dogs or the first Saw movie, or something where it's just like it takes place in all the first, just one room. That was the challenge, was I wanted to see, because I'd written Unreal Morningstar, which is massive. It takes place over an entire planet, and then you have the other ones which were like the first two in the Nightmare Fuel series, my sort of attempt at trying to write sort of like a Goosebumps but modern day sort of twist with my dark edge to it, and those did well too. But then the third one, which is Condemned, I basically wanted to sit down and say, all right, I want to write a book that takes place in one room and nothing happens outside of this room. I just wanted to be 4 people and see if I can make this story interesting. And it was my I think it's like third in rank of commercially, because the first one's always going to be Under Morning Star, because it was huge for me, at least. It was sold 16,000 copies, and then which may not be nothing in the music world, but it is something in the book world. 16,000 copies is a lot.
It is a lot.
Yeah, and I think the Suicide Diary sold about 14,000. Condemned sold around 13 or 12 or 13. I can't remember. I got the number somewhere.
It's certainly better than having 10 unpublished books.
Yeah, I mean, like they've sold well, but I'm not Stephen King. That's what I tell everybody is I'm not Stephen King, but I've sold well enough that I can at least give you my opinion on, how I did it. I will never tell someone, oh, this book isn't good because you didn't write it this particular way. Because
if you add your numbers up, it's not just about 16,000, though, is it? If you've got 16 and then 14 and then whatever, it's all accumulative,
Yeah, I mean, I've sold. I don't know what the total number is. I'd say around 35, maybe 40,000 copies total of everything. Which I think is pretty good. I mean,
no, absolutely. You can't complain at that. That's But that's what I'm saying. People that can try and critique you, who have fuck all out there on the web, they can't say shit.
I just it's not even. I don't see. The thing is, I have imposter syndrome like crazy, and that's what Terror Tracks 11 is going to be about. Well, 10 it's going to be about. Is since I basically kind of told you everything I can tell you in a general sense with the first 8 episodes, which so that would call that season 1, where each episode's 30 minutes to an hour, where I just explain a lot of this stuff. And I didn't go super in depth with a lot of it. I just sort of, because I can't tell you. The thing is, I can't tell you, okay, if you do XYZ, you're going to be at the top of the list, because if that was true, then everyone will be at the top of the list. Just every book, publishers take on all these books and not all of them do well. J.K. Rowling, as big as she is for writing Harry Potter, she has other books that she's written that you've probably never heard of.
Yeah, we spoke about that on the last episode as well.
Yeah, I mean, so like even if like the thing was, J.K. Rowling picked a series, did great with it, made billions of dollars, made movies and merchandise, and I remember when it first came out, there was toys of it everywhere. It was just
Lego,
huge.
You name it.
Like Harry Potter and SpongeBob were probably the biggest 2 merchandising things since Kiss.
Yeah,
there was everything.
I said on my last one that there's going to be no one that can replicate what she's done. Is have 7 books and every single one of them's a film.
Oh yeah,
and every single one was a success.
The only one that could come close is maybe Stephen King. He's had a ton of, but he's not. You don't really see any
series, is it? It's not.
Yeah, that's true.
That's what I'm saying. There's not been one. I mean, you can talk about Twilight, but there's
Twilight only had 3 or 4 books though. I mean, compared to, I don't think Twilight was ever as big as Harry Potter. I mean, Harry Potter was
7 books, 8 films,
huge. Like,
all of them successful.
God,
no one's going to replicate it ever again. It's like the Undertaker's WrestleMania streak.
I think Undertaker. I think that would be a good example of that. But it's sort of like Harry Potter really was kind of like the Hulk Hogan of fantasy novel. It's like it was the second coming of Lord of the Rings, if you think about it, because Lord of the Rings was like the biggest fantasy thing. Everything was based on that, and then J.K. Rowling put out Harry Potter, which was also fantasy or whatever, and that was just probably I don't know if it's as big, but it was damn close if it wasn't.
I mean, it was out more or less the same time.
Yeah, I mean,
so
it's crazy.
It's hard to say which was the more successful.
Yeah, I mean, but it's crazy how.
I'd like to say Lord of the Rings because of the new Amazon deal, which is several billion £. It's like
probably so. I never really got into the fantasy thing that much, but I never really read Potter or Lord of the Rings. They just weren't my thing. I was always a horror guy, horror and mystery type guy.
Okay.
It's like all that sort of stuff. And I started with horror movies. Like I think the first one I saw was Scream when I was like 6 or 7. My sister, I always tell this story. My sister had a friend that was obsessed with Skeet Ulrich that played Billy Loomis on the movie. Thought he was like the prettiest boy in the world back then in '96 or whenever it was. And you know, she was really into that, and they just would talk about like all these, you know, things going on in the movie. And I was just like, all right, I want to see that. And I watched it and just, you know, loved the horror genre. Then I think I got really deep into like Friday the 13th, and Halloween was a one. I think Halloween 2 is still my favorite horror movie of all time, the original, not the Rob Zombie thing.
Yeah.
But
talking about Rob Zombies as well, and I'm a big fan of Rob Zombie, but not many people are a big fan of his films or his narrative.
Yeah, add me to that list. I don't like Rob Zombie.
Yeah,
movies.
it's becoming a really popular opinion that I mean, I don't mean to slander the guy, I love him, but apparently his dialogue isn't that great. And what I didn't realize is that he essentially made House of the Thousand Corpses based off the first 2 Texas Chainsaw Massacres.
Yeah, that's what I got the vibe from too. Yeah,
they're almost identical if you cut out scenes and change characters and pretty much run parallel.
The thing is, I don't think Rob Zombie is a bad writer. I don't think that's the problem. I don't think his directing is the problem either. You know, and I think his own movies like House of I didn't really get into Thousand Corpses. I did like The Devil's Rejects, what I remember of it. I liked that. I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah.
But I just think that him and everyone after the first I think they didn't understand Michael Myers after part 5. I think they just kind of lost it after part 5.
Makes sense.
Because there are certain things, and I know I'm kind of, here's my, my, what do you call it? Like turtleneck, fireside chat, it's when it comes to like the Halloween movies. It's about as pretentious as I can get, at least. If you watch the first, 2 movies and, even the 4th and 5th one, but slightly less than the 4th and 5th.
The third.
The third would have skipped because he's not in it.
No.
John Carpenter had this sort of thing where, if you remember, Halloween, the first one only had 3 kills the entire movie, and it ran for like 90 minutes. So only 3 people died in the entire movie.
Yep.
But it was, still the most iconic movie. Think about Psycho. That only had 2 people killed in it. And like, when Alfred Hitchcock did it. So you don't need a high body count to have a good horror movie. And I think what Carpenter got was the atmosphere was perfect. Like, when a great scene that I would really encourage people to go watch is like the original chase scene where Michael and Laurie first meet, where she goes in the house and Michael sort of, really slowly comes up behind her, and you see him sort of fade into the shot really, really slow. And then you see him sort of slash down and cuts her arm. She falls over the railing. That was in the trailer. That was like the original, sort of thing. And the trailer was a big part of it. And it's the first chase scene you see between those two. And it's just done in such a way that it feels so real. You can imagine someone in a janitor suit and not a hockey mask, that mask could easily go Shatner up and like, the Shatner mask. You could imagine that happening. And it's like the whole house is dark. And, you really, just the way he shot it, all the different angles, the way he really kind of got it, I guess. He also
really composed all of his own music as well. Sorry.
Yeah. And I mean, I feel like the things that were Michael Myers, there are certain things that make Michael Myers different than Jason and Freddy and Pinhead and all of them. One is that Michael is slow, very, very slow. He's going to catch up to you at some point.
Jason's slow though.
No, I think he's a lot faster and louder. Like I've always, but like
he is a bit more messy. I'll admit that.
Yeah. He's a lot louder, a lot more, he just sort of shows up. He doesn't really sneak around anywhere near as much as, Michael does.
Okay. No, I know what you. I don't know. I mean, if you go, no, you are right. No.
Yeah, the one shot that I've always, another shot that I'll bring up from the second movie, which I love, is, which kind of gives you Michael Myers in a ball to me, is there's a shot where this girl, and I can't remember what her name was. It was the sheriff's daughter, and she's on the phone with some girl, and like for some reason she left the back door open. And you see Michael standing in the back door, and like the camera pans to the left really slow, and he's out of shot. And when it goes back, he's gone. So he's in the house, but you don't know where he is.
It's a good shot.
So he doesn't just walk in there and stab him or whatever. Like, he sneaks around the house and, really stalks them, and you don't know where he's at, and he'll just, pop up and he'll kill you. And that's what I've always liked about Michael, was he was so much slower, more he thought he a lot more methodical about his kills. He wasn't trying to be flashy or trying to do these things until later, where he'll do all like the fancy kills, like the shotgun, pinning her to the wall and all that shit. Which I like 4 and 5, and 5 had the scariest scene of all time to me. Just like it still haunts me to this day, which is, you can look it up on YouTube. I think it's like the first kill of Halloween 5, which is this girl, I think the blonde chick in the movie, she goes and she like picks out a jacket from her closet, and you just, she goes and picks out the jacket, and then she turns around, she's on the phone or something, and somehow Michael Myers, this guy that's like 6'4", was in the closet, and she didn't see him somehow. Whole time he was right there, and she didn't see him, and he slowly comes up out of the closet, and he comes out, and they do the same thing with the second movie. He's in the house, but you don't know where he's at. And they did that, and they ended up stabbing her with a pair of scissors. But that was scary to me, because it's like she was right there in this walk-in closet and didn't see him somehow. So maybe where I had to check every single closet, under every blanket, under everything in the house before I go to bed at night, because I'm scared he might have snuck in and he was doing some shit like that. Just thanks Halloween 5, you assholes.
It's very,
actually
very
did one
true,
thing that
though.
did stick with me.
You are right. Jason's very, very clumsy. I think they also, like you say, they tried to do more spectacular kills. Like Friday the 13th, there was so many different weapons. It was never just a machete for a while. The third, there was a harpoon gun, there was scissors, a fucking rake. All a whole mess of stuff.
Oh yeah, they just he had to have some different way to kill each person.
Damn carving knife, and that was it.
Yeah, I mean, I think Michael, for the most part, like, I'm trying to think, in the first movie, he used the knife, choked the chick in the car, and that's a play on the urban legend of someone's in your back seat and you don't look. That was a play on that.
Do you like the film Urban Legend? That's a bad film. I haven't seen it in ages.
No, I actually liked the first two Urban Legend movies. I thought they were kind of, they were kind of neat. They tried, they tried something different. They tried to mix Scream and, urban legends and stuff. Because you remember in the late 90s, Scream was so huge that like every movie was trying to be Scream.
As well.
You had Halloween H2O, which was basically Michael Myers' Ghostface.
20 years later,
yeah. So they basically took Scream and Halloween and made it, H2O. Because that came out around 98, because the first film was 1978, so it must have been 98. But everything became like Scream. You had Urban Legend, I Know What You Did Last Summer. Trying to think what other ones. You had Final Destination come out around that point, I think. Maybe a little later.
There was what was it called now?
Everything had Jennifer Love Hewitt in it.
Ginger Snaps. There was that. Do you remember that one? That was a fucking random one.
I can't remember that one, but it sounds familiar. But there were so many. Every slasher movie had to basically be a Scream sort of knockoff, really. I mean, they were good. I mean, I like Scream, and I always hated the idea of like something being a ripoff of something else, because it's like there's not really, like if you think about like Friday the 13th versus Bloody Murder, because Bloody Murder has like a guy in a hockey mask that kills people. Bloody Murder is a stupid movie, but at the same time, I don't think of it as, it's not taking anything away from Friday the 13th.
Yeah, it's not a ripoff.
It's not selling itself as Friday the 13th, like a part where they're trying to take money away from it. It's technically, it copies a lot from it, but I just see it as sort of like more of the same. It's like, there's only so many Friday the 13th movies. So if there's a ripoff of it, I want to watch it because I want more Friday the 13th, even if it's shittier than the originals. And I feel the same way about Saw, that Saw had this sort of thing where they had a lot of copies of Saw. And I really liked them because people had to make these different twists. Like one was called Are You Scared, which was kind of cool. Where it's kind of like a game show version of Saw. That was neat. And they had like Exam, which was cool, where like these people are trying to do like this, they're stuck in a room and have to solve some question to get like this, multi-million-dollar job, and they end up killing each other. That was a great movie.
Quite a few of them. There's quite a few that are on like Amazon Prime that you can just tell are ripoffs, but some of them are pretty good. There's one that my partner watched the other day, and it was again, they was just having to compete and kill each other in like grisly fucking ways. I can't really remember what it was called now.
I think
doesn't
House
really
of
stick with
Nine
me.
was great too. I think that was a great twist on that, where they had 9 people in a house and they ended up sort of like having to have like a battle royale at the end.
Mm.
You know, where it was sort of like, you know, they had to find a way. Only one could leave the house and they'll get like 10 million bucks or something. That was cool. You know, they try to
I
avoid
think
it
that
for
might have
most of
been
the
it.
movie. Yeah, that
Yeah,
was a great one.
I think that was the one.
Nine Dead was a big influence on Condemned because I like that concept, but I wanted it to be a lot different, you know, with my sort of
I was trying to
horror
think of
twist
that
to it.
the other day, The Condemned. It was. I'm glad you mentioned it because it was. I've seen too many films, and lately I'm watching more documentaries than films because I feel like I've seen far too many films. But I'm starting to forget like actors' names, and I was like trying to remember the film. I was like, oh, the one where they're all on the island trying to kill each other. It's got Stone Cold in it and Goldberg, and
Oh yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
wow, what's it called? But it's called The Condemned.
It's down. I think I know what you're talking about. I never saw that movie though, but I think that sounds. I think I can almost remember the movie cover in my head. I just never saw the
Yeah, it's
movie.
just them like Stone Colds at the front, and he's just standing there looking hard.
Yeah,
You know?
looking hard like he always did. I love Stone Cold. There was this one promo he did that always made me laugh. Where I think it was like right after they broke his neck. He broke his neck by because of Owen Hart, and they made
Owen
him
Hart
like
pile driving.
yeah, and he had to go home and stay home for whatever amount of time, and you know,
Fucked
they
his
come out there and
career, man.
harass him at his house, and he's like, "What the hell y'all doing here?" You know, just like he goes off on a redneck rant. I'm just like, "Oh my god!" And this one line he
Yeah.
said was, "And don't put nothing in your grubby little pockets, or I'll whip the hell out of you, son." And then he goes in the house and slams the door. That was like, I was like, "Oh my god!" That was probably the most redneck thing I've ever heard. I'll whip the hell out of you, son.
It's
Like,
so
oh my God.
it's such a shame that Owen Hart pile drived him because obviously he was the biggest fucking wrestler of the time.
Oh yeah,
Apart from The Rock, you know, but The
yeah.
Rock come a little bit later. It was around the same time, but in terms of pushes, you know, it was Stone Cold.
I think
Then
the Undertaker was
it's,
the
always
Undertaker
big.
was big, but it was like I've always felt like the Undertaker was
He was a
never.
middleman. It was always a mid card to me.
Yeah, I always felt like he was never like the star, like
No.
the big star. Like he was never like a
No.
Hulk Hogan, you know.
No.
He was always a great star. Like he was like, you know, like a Shawn Michaels level sort of, you know, guy. Like, you know, I've always thought the Undertaker was more of like a Shawn Michaels. He had his spot. It was a very high spot, but he was never
He should have
like
been
Hulk Hogan or Randy Savage or these others that really pushed the company alone.
It's so fucked because it's almost like he'd already had the push, but we didn't see it, and he was already a superstar.
Yeah,
but obviously he sat off on the sidelines a lot, which is, you know, I respect the Undertaker for his career because it's 30 years and having every single person be the top guy. And not saying the Undertaker never was a top guy because he was, but
yeah,
you know, in terms of merch and whatever, you know, it was always the Rock fucking t-shirts or Stone Cold shirts, or you know, there was very few bits of merch for the Undertaker. You know, you could get a little belt and you could get shirts, but there wasn't no fucking book deal for him at that time.
Yeah,
a few of them got one. Mankind did, Stone Cold did, The Rock did, but the Undertaker didn't. You know,
maybe he has put out something now. I'm sure. I mean, everyone has a book out. It looks like. I mean, if you watch the news, or at least American news, I don't know about whatever news you watch over there, but American news, like if you watch Fox News, like Tucker Carlson, just not going to get political, but just a point that I'm going to make. It almost seems like every guest that comes on Tucker has a book that they're trying to sell you. Like it's like the author of this book, the author of this book. I'm just like, God damn, Tucker, how many fucking authors are you gonna have on this bitch? Why don't you have me on? Just I'm the Morning Star, you know, like this guy that's written a fictional book, you know.
Have you messaged him?
No, because
well,
I don't think I'd ever make it on Fox News.
Wow.
I'm not a political pundit guy. I don't run a political show. I don't talk about politics on Terror Tracks.
Yeah, but you could just blag it up until you get on stage. You just go, yeah, I'm here to talk about politics, and then just come on and chat shit. Fuck 'em, man.
Probably could. I mean, I would love to go on there and just, you know, have a conversation about that critical race theory stuff. That's just, oh god, just. I'm happy at the fact that horror has already been horror is almost, if you think about it, action movies, all these movies are, that everybody's talking about the woke stuff and this thing's gone woke and go broke, all that stuff. That'll never happen in horror. It just won't, because horror is already too damn diverse. I mean, there's really, think about how many white killers are there in horror. What race is Jason? What race is Freddy? What race is Michael? Would it really matter if you had a black guy? Would you ever have
Candyman?
Candyman, yes. Yeah. But I'm saying, like, if someone like black played Michael Myers, who cares? All you would see is his hands. I mean, who gives a shit? And the same thing with Jason. He's already kind of black anyway because he's been rotted and shit, so he's kind of black already.
Freddy would make a difference because he's burnt.
Because he's burnt, yeah. So I mean, there's really nothing to wash, really. I mean, the closest we got is they turned Wesker black in the new Resident Evil live action thing. I was like, all right, but I think that's kind of odd.
Albert Wesker.
Yeah, I just thought that was kind of, not that there was anything wrong with casting a black dude in that role, but I'm thinking you're casting a black guy in the role of the main villain of a show, where you're trying to be like diverse and shit, but you have the villain like being this like black dude when like the original guy was like the guy that you try to hate all the time. The straight white man with the slick back hair and the sunglasses and his white.
He's a prick. You hated him.
Yeah, like. So y'all are making a black dude a villain now? I mean, isn't that kind of racist or something? I mean,
well, you could flip that.
I'm not saying it is, but I'm saying, they're so picky about everything's racist. But I'm like, what about that?
Yeah. Someone will clock onto that at some point.
Someone was like, so crazy. Is casting a black villain racist? I mean,
there really isn't any like black slasher movies. Not really. I can't really think.
The only one I could think of is Candyman.
Yeah, the only one I can think of is Candyman.
You think about it, hell, I mean, Pinhead, he's played by a white guy, but I mean, he's not like, his skin is pale white. He might be black under there. Who knows?
You could do it.
He does have a deep voice. I mean, he has a really deep voice, and a real deep, thunderous voice. It might be a black dude under there. Who knows?
Could be.
I don't know, but I love Doug Bradley. He's great.
He's amazing.
I'm trying to think of. I'm trying to think of any other.
No, it wasn't. That was again another villain. God damn it!
I'm trying to think of, like, you always hear that trope of the black guy dies first in the horror movie. And I'm trying to think of a horror movie where their black guy actually died first. I can't think of any.
No, well,
I can't remember many horror movies that had a black guy in it to begin with to get killed.
In The Faculty.
Yeah, I haven't seen that in forever.
No, I haven't. I could be wrong there. I used to obviously Scary Movie, like one of the greatest spoofs of all time. But I think they was the one that made the joke originally.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
but they were so fantastic, those films.
I just don't think. I'm trying to think. All right, so I'm trying to think of all, like, I don't think, has Michael ever killed a black guy? Michael Myers. I don't think he has. Well, no. He did in the first Halloween movie that Rob Zombie did. He killed I don't know what his name is, but he's like a horror icon. Everyone knows it. He played Kenan Thompson's daddy in Kenan and Kel.
Yeah.
Like the big, like Roger Rockmore, the real big black Roger scary Rockmore. Dude. Yeah, there was that guy that he killed him in the Halloween movie, and he was also the news guy, and he was also in Dawn of the Dead as one of the people.
Shit.
He was like the whatever they called him back then, like the one of the survivors in Dawn of the Dead. He also did a cameo in the remake of Dawn of the Dead, which I thought was great. I love that movie. Where he was the newscaster that said, and when hell is full, the dead will walk the earth or whatever.
Yeah.
That guy was in there. He killed him, and that when he was taking his shit or whatever on Halloween, the Rob Zombie movie. Anyway, that guy, that's one black guy. Then I guess that's the only one I could think of. No, he did kill Danny Trejo, which is bullshit. You can't kill Danny Trejo in a movie. That's just not fair. He's the Mexican Sylvester Stallone. You don't fuck with Danny Trejo. I wouldn't. He just seems like a guy that you mess with him, you come up missing. You just don't mess with a guy like that.
He was amazing in like Dusk Till Dawn as well.
Yeah. Danny Trejo is almost like the Mexican version of Clint Eastwood to me. He's just like, and he's so iconic. You can put him in anything and just let him be Danny Trejo.
I can't remember what he was in. He was in like a comedy recently, like a series.
Yeah.
And he was like, he played a completely different role to what he normally plays, and he was in like a dress or something like that, and it was fucking hilarious. I can't remember what it was now. I'm gonna have to Google it after the show.
There was this one guy that I always loved. He was, I think he would have been great in a horror movie. It was, I don't know what his name is, but he did the voiceover for all the Army and Marines commercials that you see in America, at least, where they're always trying to recruit you or whatever. Is this real deep voice black dude, and he's like, really scary looking, like, like you put him in a movie, he's like the perfect like black commando guy. And he was in a movie called Delta Force, where it was like this parody movie, where it was Larry the Cable Guy and Bill Engvall got drafted with the National Guard and they're supposed to go to Iraq, but somehow or another the plane screwed up or something, and they ended up in Mexico and thought they were in Iraq. And it's like, what the fuck? And like he's just another actor I wouldn't want to get in the room with and try to say anything shitty to him. He beat my fucking ass.
It's just like,
what is his name? I'm trying to think what his name is, because he is a big scary looking dude. Delta Force. Let me see what his
there's just certain people, aren't there, that just are in movies that just have a demeanor, and you could just, if you used to share a room with you just feel a bit awkward and out of place.
Yeah, it's Keith David. That's who it is.
Keith David.
Yeah. He has a great voice though. He's almost sort of like a James Earl Jones sort of voice, really deep and thunderous, and just the way he can give you a look and a smile. It's like, I'm gonna rip your fucking head off.
Have you watched America the Motion Picture yet?
No, I haven't even heard of it.
It's on Netflix. So many people haven't watched it yet. God damn.
What is it supposed to be about?
It's basically a retelling of basically like the American Civil War in a way. And,
God.
But it's complete bullshit. But it's super hilarious. I would advise watching it. If you're
was it just a bunch of bitching about racist rednecks or something?
No. It's just like it's obviously like George Washington. It's like avenges the death of like Abraham Lincoln. And like goes up against King Edward, and I think it's King Edward and Benedict Arnold. And it's just so the jokes in it are amazing. The animation's amazing. The actor's amazing. It's a fantastic film. Highly recommend it. If you like cartoons,
I had to take a look at that sometime.
Yeah, you a fan of cartoons?
Yeah, animation. I mean, some of them. I like the older, more. I really like stuff like Courage the Cowardly Dog a lot, because that really kind of makes horror. Yeah, that was one of my favorites, because it really perfected like horror and comedy, and it could really.
It's creepy.
Really it was creepy, but it could also was written so well that you kind of felt, like there's some episodes that really would make you depressed or scared and stuff. I mean, like the Star Wall thing was really depressing. Like it's like the last of the space octopus sort of thing, and like it turns into a star when it dies, and that was just really depressing and everything. And just they were so well made back then that that was a shame that show didn't do well. It did well, but it didn't last long enough. And I like Boondocks because I think it's one of the funniest shows on TV.
Yes, the amount of times I mentioned that.
God.
I mentioned it a few episodes ago, and unfortunately, the episode got fucked up because of audio problems. But the Boondocks is one of my favorites of all time. Uncle Ruckus is fucking hilarious. One of the greatest written characters of all time.
Oh God.
One of the only other shows where Samuel L. Jackson plays a white guy.
Yeah.
Fucking amazing. It's a shame they was obviously going to bring season 5 out, but they had delayed it. It kind of sucks. It got announced just before COVID, and then I was super psyched because it's the fucking Boondocks, and obviously the guy who plays Granddad passed away, I think, during COVID.
Oh no.
Yeah, I only found out on again talking to a guest, and I was like, fuck. I was like, I didn't even know. So that was a tragedy for me. but I think that's why it's been delayed. Which, you can't blame them. But such a brilliant actor character, is amazing.
Oh, that really, I didn't know John Weatherspoon was gone.
Yeah, that's his name. I didn't even know that. And
oh man, like, he died in 2019. What happened to him?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I didn't even know. But they just
he had a heart attack at 77. That's what it was.
Oh, okay.
Dude, I loved him because he was so good in Friday, and he also was he was so hilarious in Friday, and he did what was that other thing he did? Not Friday, but he did like this cooking show on YouTube for a while. And it was hilarious.
I don't know about that.
He was showing you like how black people cook stuff, and he was really funny about it, and he was hilarious. Oh man, he was a riot, and he was great in Boondocks, and oh man, I think the show should probably just end. If they can't, there's no one gonna be able to sound
they can't
like him and they can't have that
recast.
same personality. No.
You can't recast him. That's the problem. It's like, do you ever see the Trailer Park Boys?
No, I never really watched that show, but I've heard a lot about it.
One of their John Dunsworth, he was one of like the mainish guys, and he passed away during. They did like a live show of it, and then they did an animation version. But obviously, he passed away before the animation version, and they just sort of use his voice because they've got hours and hours and hours of him talking. But they just like clip his voice and put it in, and it doesn't sound the same, and it doesn't feel the same. So, if there was to do that to the Boondocks, I think it'd be a very big slight towards them,
Oh, yeah. I mean, they kind of did something like that with the game Scarface, The World Is Yours. They got someone that sounded exactly like Al Pacino, because I guess they really couldn't afford Al, or he wasn't available, but they got someone that sounded just like him. So maybe they could.
That was a good game.
Yeah, I love that game, and it's just I wish they'd make a remake of that because that was fun. Or at least add that sort of real estate thing to like GTA 5 or something where you can like buy properties and stuff again.
That little island that you go, like the tiny little island you have to fucking go out to, and it's surrounded on there. That was a fucking horrible mission, man. That was horrible. It was so cool. That was a very cool game. Like,
yeah, I love
that.
That was a great movie and a great game, and that's one of those sort of like once in a lifetime movies. I don't think there's ever going to be another Scarface or anything
I think they're trying to remake it,
and it's probably not going to work out well, I'm sure.
Nope.
But,
it's going to be like a modern day version with just probably like a bunch of like chavvy boys. There'll be no high collars and snorting cocaine on dance floors. It'll be chavs and grinding, I assume, and all gangster shit, I imagine.
Yeah, that's probably what they're gonna do. But I mean, they kind of did. I remember they did something like where they had Carlito's Way, and then they had like the prequel that came out later, and I don't remember if that came out all right or not. I think it came out pretty good though, so maybe they can do it. They do have a Sopranos movie coming out soon.
Carlito's Way was amazing.
Oh yeah,
was it Benny from the Bronx?
Well, the thing was, a lot of that lawyer from Carlito's Way was in GTA Vice City, I think, or at least the character was based on him. That Rosenberg from Vice City was pretty much an exact copy of the guy from Carlito's Way, and they had a lot of stuff from like, of course, Scarface was a huge part of GTA Vice City, and a lot of that sort of stuff back then.
Yeah, they just they took so much from like the Miami scene for Vice City.
Miami Vice probably too.
Yeah. They were cool games, man, the GTAs. But it's just such a shame how long it's taken for the new one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I like GTA 5, and I hope that they're, going to make it as good as GTA 6 as good as 5, and maybe they're really taking their time and trying to make something, even better, because 5 was such a massive leap into like the future, like way so much farther ahead than GTA 4 was, that they really like took like the openness of San Andreas and Saints Row 2 and stuff like that, and just really gave you like the perfect GTA experience, I think, like, or as close to perfect as you can get, because they still have I think it's like a couple 100,000 people playing online like every day. So I mean, it's just
still
it's like it's
so popular.
Yeah, I mean, it's like going to be one of those games that probably just isn't going to die. But Yeah, man. I'm sorry to cut this short, but I really got to go in a few minutes. So
No,
I mean,
that's
I don't know.
okay. It's not a problem, man.
Yeah, I just don't know whatever wrap up thing that you do for your show. I mean,
Well, it's pretty loose. Normally it just wraps up on its own, but again, people have to occasionally go because we've all got individual lives.
yeah.
So before we wrap up, where can we follow you and where can we find your books?
Go to terratracks.com/listen if you want to listen to the show or follow me on social media, and go to terratracks.com/shop if you want to buy the books or see any of the other stuff I got going on over there.
Well, this has been the Posthuman Podcast, folks. I've been here with Jack Pierce. It's been a fantastic small conversation. We're going to have to plan another one, my friend.
Oh, of course, yeah.
A longer one. We see if we can beat the record. Because he's a super interesting guy, man.
Yeah,
again.
Thank you, man.
And I think there's a lot more stories to come out of you yet.
Yeah.
Well, this has been the Posthuman Podcast. I'm your host, Tim Turner. We'll catch you next time, people. Thank you very much.